Today on the show, we're dropping dogs. Dogs, we're dropping meteors. We're dropping big old bombs. We're taking a big fat honky one. All on today's show. Hit the theme. Hey, welcome back to the show, Anime Binge Club, the only podcast that's still being introduced by this way and by sloppily every single time. I'm your host, Spencer Crittenden, and with me as always is Kevin Day. What's up, Kevin? How you doing?
Oh man, I'm doing great today. I really enjoyed this episode. I know I said that last week too, but I really enjoyed this one. I'm kind of excited to talk about this one.
Yeah, I hope we can really do it justice. I am in a weird mood. I've been trying to quit weed lately, and it's not good. And I have a show to go to after this, and I might just cancel. I don't know. I'm having a bad day. But you know who's maybe not having a bad day? I shouldn't just imply he's not. Is our amazing guest. Thank you so much for coming in today. You've seen his work in Futurama, Rick and Morty, Miles Morales, Spider-Man in on shelves now. Cody Ziglar is here today. What's up? How you doing?
Yo, thanks for having me. I'm sure you've heard this every single time you've had a guest on, but that is the best intro I've ever seen for anything ever. I highly enjoyed that so much.
Wow. Thanks so much. I thought it was a lot of fun to make. I don't know. So it's one of the few. So here's the thing. I was so excited making that video, and it was so fun, and it was so pure expressionally, like a pure expression of art, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But you're like a career creative artist, right? Have you ever had something that just felt like, oh, this is just only pure and nothing else like that? Does that make sense?
Yeah. No. It's like I always sort of say that it's like something you're making only for yourself. Like you don't care if anyone else likes it. Like it brings you an immense amount of joy, and I do have that. And like those are always the things that I enjoy the most. And I also, when I see someone else do that, is when I also it inspires something in me. Like just the fact that you committed to singing the entire song in actual Japanese is like just great. Also, the edits were great. Like it really, I really felt like it brought me joy, which means I think that it brought you an immense amount of joy making it.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing is like, it was so unique. I don't know. I've been on this journey, but it's been so like, I was just purely only making it for me, and anything that I thought was bad, I was like, I like that it's bad because it's stupid, because it's just for me. And and so I could just get behind it in a way that I never had before. But so yeah, that's kind of what this podcast has been about, is that like, you don't know me, but I was part of Harmontown, and then Harmontown ended, and now I'm doing this. And the thing that I've like come to realize is like, I don't know what I am as a creative person. And like making that video was like, oh, well, this is a version of me as a creative person. Like, and then I was like, well, this is like, what have I been doing my whole life, right? And then that's been just blowing my mind nonstop. But it's been nice to do that with this kind of background. I don't know. Anime is such this weird thing, you know?
Yeah. Also, it, not to get ahead of it, but also I think it sort of ties into what this episode was about, which we learned that one of the main characters, like his sort of like, emotional thing is that like he is trying to get approval from other people. Like he needs to learn how to do something for himself, for the joy of himself. And it seems like by happenstance, it just happened to tie into this episode. So I'm glad that you found this sort of, at least this one creative aspect of you that you can do for yourself just for the love of the game, which I think, a lot of people that are in any creative field, I don't think they necessarily have that. And I think it's something that should definitely be, like cherished and sort of championed,
Yeah, it's I mean, yeah, exactly. In this industry, it's like really hard to actually hold that, that aspect of it. I don't want to get too pretentious, but again, it's this thing that I've been struggling with, and it's a weird place, it's a weird city. I don't know, but anime is just like really complex psychologically. I guess all media does, but I don't know. Like, I feel like this episode, it's about very specifically, like why Shinji is taking action, like what motivates him, and then also what motivates Misato and why she takes action, and they both come from this scarred place.
It's funny. I haven't seen this episode in maybe like 15, 20 years, whenever it originally came out. And like when I watched it as a kid or a teenager, like I just remember like the set piece, the action at the very end, and like rewatching it, I'm like, oh, that lasts maybe 2 minutes. Like all of this is really just like this sort of like a character study between these two characters and like why they're motivated to do their thing they do. Like one is like more based in revenge, the other is like more based out of like, as we were sort of saying, like needing the approval from our others, specifically like your absentee abusive father. And like I think in hindsight, like I definitely enjoyed that, like they front loaded so much of this with just like drama and like the actual like action of it is like who even like that's not even like that's like the least important part. Like you could just roll that over the credits. Like we don't necessarily care about the big, big alien angel getting blown up. Like you're sort of here for like white knuckling it for this like emotional drama and like hoping that these characters will be healed one day.
Yeah, and I just I like rewatching this time, I'm really tapping into that aspect. And like what really hits me is the tightness of the writing, like how tightly woven everything is. Like by the time the action is hitting, it's like a spring that's like ready to sprung, it's really, and they do that every episode. And it's like, man, they're just dropping this plot detail and this seed and this like sets up and that gets, it's just, I don't know. It's happening everywhere. And obviously it's great storytelling, but just seeing how like, I don't know, iconic it all is as it's being laid out is so awesome to me, right?
It's a very, very, I think, patient show. I mean, sometimes I would say definitely towards the end, sort of impenetrably so, where like you don't know what's going on and like you sort of need like, I guess 4 extra movies to explain everything that sort of happens. But I'm trying to imagine like a show like this coming out now, where like everything sort of has to be like spoon fed to you and like there's not. I don't think it's really open to interpretation as much as these shows were like back then, or like even just like having 2 characters have like a philosophical debate while in the washroom and we only sit on like the water running from the faucet. Like that's such an interesting approach to like one, just filmmaking in general, but like just how you would shoot a scene. Like it's just an overhead wide shot and then we cut to like water running from the faucet and like there's no action, there's no real blocking besides that, and like you have to just be like, oh, the audience is going to be invested in this debate and this like sort of philosophical disagreement between these 2 people.
Yeah, and anime I think runs into so many like budgetary issues and like timing issues, and like you get that some of it, but it adds to the drama and like the artsiness of the shots to just be like, yeah, we're just sitting on a tap as like someone saying the craziest shit on the planet, and then you cut to this weird corner angle shot down from the bathroom corner, and it's like all these shots, they're taking up a lot of time. There's not a lot of active animation happening, but they make a really cool like set scene. Right?
Yeah, and they're so impactful. Like that reminds me of like my actual favorite shot in this episode is that it's when the 3 pilots are coming up in the elevator and they're getting ready for the mission or whatever, and it's just them backlit, and then it's like blacked for like maybe 5-10 seconds, and then you see the reveal of their Avas behind them, and it's like it's very like limited animation, but it's so like effective and like it's such a big punch to be like, oh yeah, these children are like giant or like piloting these giant machines of death that we can't really comprehend. And I think at this point it's sort of hinted that they're not necessarily just robots, like they maybe have their own sentient thing going on. Like it's such a powerful shot, but not a lot actually happens in the actual like shot design or animation of it.
That's the thing. Like it underscores like the gravity and the seriousness. And also I think it kind of opens up like the emotional space by like removing the literal backgrounds. It's like you're just seeing the characters. And I really like that.
Yeah. I can't remember if this was in this episode or not, but sort of like a motif of this series is that I remember it always gave me such anxiety. Like whenever they'd be on those enormous escalators, like going to nowhere, and they'd just be going down for miles and miles with like nowhere around you. Like if you stop, if it breaks, like you have to like walk blocks and blocks and blocks. Like it gave me such anxiety, but I always loved like just the composition of like, here's 2 people in this wide open space and they're having this very intimate conversation. And because of how long this escalator is, they could be there for 15-20 minutes. Who even knows how long?
Yeah, and that's another thing where obviously it's so evocative, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, this is a really simple shot money-wise. And especially just because I feel like this show, especially all anime is, but like especially this one must have just been on a shoestring budget and stuff. And I feel like despite that, it just looks, even on the money-saving shots, it looks amazing. And I think that's like some big part of like what makes it so artful.
Yeah, have you I mean, I'm sure you may talk about this every time you do this show as well, but like what's sort of like your story with this? Like how did you get back into Ava, or if this is your first time? I'm assuming it's not because you said you've seen it before, but like what got you into Ava, but also what made you get back into it like this and sort of like dissect it with like more analytical approach to it?
Well, I really like anime and always have, and
Yeah.
I think it's hard to talk about. I think especially
Hmm.
with like more problematic series, like there's an
Hmm.
extent to which you don't even necessarily want to say like I watched this. And
Yeah.
like I don't think that happens in a lot of other media. You're not like, "Oh, you watched this movie, that makes you a bad person," you know? And so
Yeah.
I kind of wanted like a just a space to like, you know, bring other people into like watching animes that I've watched so I could talk just first of all on a podcast, but talk to those people also about it,
Yeah.
just in a way that
Yeah.
I haven't been able to, you know. And
Yeah.
Eva just seemed like a great opportunity to start and experiment with this idea, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think also something that I enjoy doing is going back and watching series or movie, whatever, like re-engaging with art that I watched as a kid or when my brain was sort of forming, and like seeing what sticks around and what doesn't stick around. And I feel like Ava, alongside with like, maybe Mobile Suit Gundam, really like there's so many things I just missed growing up.
Hmm.
It's sort of like in a weird version, a weird way, like how like I would watch The Simpsons. I'm like, oh, this is funny, but I don't know why. And then like older, I'm like, oh, that's a reference to like Lawrence of Arabia or whatever. And like watching this show now, like I
Yeah.
remember as a teenager being like, oh, this show is sad, but I don't know why. And like watching
Hmm.
it now, just being like, oh, Shinji is such. I mean, everyone's a tragic character, but like Shinji is like such a tragic character. And like I can't believe they based a whole series just around this kid's trauma.
Yeah, like when I first watched it, like the online, the talk was like, "Oh, this kid, he sucks. He's like a baby. Why doesn't he grow up?" And like watching it as an adult, it's like, man, like this is the most sainted human to ever exist, and everything we
Yeah,
know about him is he should be like a quivering pile of goo, you know,
yeah,
and he
yeah.
kind of is, but like
Yeah.
he's so much more, you
Yeah,
know.
he's a guy that he's a not even guy, he's just a kid who wants like love and approval from the people around him and like his father. And like any like 14-year-old kid would go would they wouldn't even answer the call, but like they would definitely crumple under the pressure like Shinji does in this show. It's like that's the most realistic thing I think about this show is his reaction to the sort of pressures that are put on him from the outside world.
Yeah, I think it's like really real how like on there's some part of him where he's keeping a good front where he's trying to hold it together. There's also
Hmm.
a part of him where he's constantly crumbling and he can never
Yeah.
hold anything together. But also despite both of those reactions, when he's in the moment, he actually performs in a way that generally surprises most people, you know, and that
Yeah,
is
yeah.
like, yeah, we can handle hard things. We just don't know how to handle it until the hard thing is like right there to do.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. I never thought about that. It definitely is like everyone sort of has a plan until they get punched, is like what they're saying, whatever. And like, I feel like Shinji, what makes him like a unique character is that like you see him on both sides of that. You see him like crumpling under the pressure, having immense self doubt, like having cowardice, having a very human reaction. But then like when push comes to shove, like he does always step up, and also he always like exceeds expectations. It's such a cool duality to have for a character that I've never thought about until you literally just mentioned that, right?
Yeah, and I think it kind of it's like again, it's like it also subverts like what we the audience understand because we're
Yeah.
seeing this guy who's barely doing it, but then like other characters who we know are smart and scientific are like, wow, Shinji's really good at this. And then we see him barely survive. We don't see him being very capable. He just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
manages to pull it out. So like it's nice to hear that kind of like support because again, we're seeing it through his lens and he doesn't see himself that way.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember like the very first episode, like it ends with like him getting knocked out and like the robot from what I remember, like it just cuts to black and like the second episode just opens up with him in the hospital and you're like, yeah, I guess he won, but he seems to be as capable as you would think a kid being stuck in a giant machine would be capable for the first time taking their thing out.
Right. That's the thing is like that episode starts with, oh man, he lost the fight. And then at the end of the episode, it's like, no, he like did like a critical hit and destroyed the angel in a way that no one thought was possible. And that's the way his dad treated him after that anyway. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
like the way all those revelations happen is so crazy to me.
yeah. I very much agree.
Yeah. So Kevin, before I'm gonna start with a brief just like plot overview before we crack in a bit deeper. But Kevin, do you have any thoughts before I kind of hop in?
No, I really empathize with Shenji a lot in this episode. There, like I'll get to it
Yeah,
as
me
you go,
too.
you get to these points, but yeah, no, I felt a sense of kinship to him in this episode a lot of like me at that age would have done the exact same things in so many places in this episode.
Yeah. So just a quick plot summary. So Misato apparently got promoted. They do some tests where they find out that there's an angel, and they find this out while Gendo is like in the Antarctic, and there's also radio disruption. So like they can't contact like HQ. So Misato's in charge, and she has to tell the kids to risk their lives to save the world. And she seems to do a pretty good job, and they beat the angel and they win, and that's the kind of episode plot. But that's the kind of vague outline. But I'll just kind of start getting into the more detailed stuff and kind of go bit by bit. But like it starts with a flashback to the second impact. You know, we have recently found out the second impact wasn't a meteor. It was like human caused, and it had something to do with Katsuragi. And this is like the first glimpse we're actually seeing, which is like her dad was at the South Pole for some reason with her as a kid, and they somehow caused the second impact. And they, you know, and he saved her by putting her in a pilot plug, and then the fucking world ended somehow. There's these big dragonfly wings. There's all the screaming. You know, at this point, she already has the cross. That's where her scar on her chest comes from. So like that's a lot. Like that's the most we've learned about Masato, and it was vaguely referenced in past episodes. You know, like she probably has some tie to the second impact. But now we're seeing like here's what happened, and we don't know what happened, but we know that humanity caused this, and her dad was part of it, and a bunch of people died, and this basically ended the world. You know, so it's a huge reveal. Yeah. And any thoughts there?
I had this exact same thought while I was watching it. I just wrote down a notice that like a thing that I really admire about this series rewatching it is that like every character has so much depth to them that is then found out in such quick little bits like this where like, all right, we know that Masato has some type of one, like you said, connection to like second impact, but like some sort of like trauma or like revenge. Tragedy. We don't know why. And then like you learn about it like in a scene like this, or like even like the what's it, Katsuragi, what's the scientist's name whose name I can't
Ritsuko.
Yeah, Ritsuko. Like you can tell that she has like a weird thing going on. You don't know why, and then later on, it's revealed what her issue is and like how her and Masato are tied together with another character. It's like such. It's like such depth for like, you know, supporting characters that you sort of appreciate again how emotionally forward this show is, and like how the action sort of takes a back step. But like, sort of like you realize that like Katsuragi and Shinji do have this like sort of weird mirror type thing where like she has daddy issues, he has daddy issues. Like her dad tried to protect her, and like you sort of get the sense that Gendo is trying to do that in his own little warped way that, you know, it's kind of hard to understand, even if you watched all the shows and movies and stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, because even at this point, without really understanding, we're kind of to believe that maybe they're the same, and that Gendo is kind of like Misato's dad, where they're both. But that's the thing, is they're both tied up in their work. But also, if you're like the world is literally going to end or has already ended, like there is an argument to be said to where if I save the world, that actually is better than quality time with my family. And I think there's a decent argument. Like I think good people can come down on both sides of that, right? Like it really is destroying your family by your neglect, but at the same time, what is destroying your family if you literally destroy your family? You know, and so there's a lot of parallels between them that I think come through. Like when they're driving in that later scene, they're both in the car together. I think it's like you're like, yeah, you know, these two are in it together against the entire world, and no one understands it the way they do because no one has this firsthand experience with what actually is happening. You know? Yeah,
and like that's sort of like their journey throughout this series. Like the first person that Shinji meets in the show, besides like that weird like Ray like ghost thing, is Kutsuragi, is like it's Masato, and like she's sort of like shepherds him throughout this entire series. But also, you know, they get closer in their own ways. Like some of it is like a little bit manipulative from Masato's point of view, but like truly like she sort of shepherds him in through every major event in this series. And also she's the one that's always believing in Shinji. Like, I think even this episode, she's like, oh, there's like 0.0001% chance, whatever. She's like, well, I believe in Shinji. And like, as we sort of learned in this episode as well, that like Shinji needs that confidence boost. And like, it's interesting watching this now on this rewatch being like, oh, all these characters are intertwined in such specific ways that like, they really, really, really complement each other. But also the show is patient enough to like not feed you that information until halfway through the actual series like this.
Yeah. And when they do it, it's so tight. It's so understated. It just like falls in. It takes so little like actual like writing script time to make it happen. But like, I just completely lost my train of thought. I had the coolest thing to build off what you were saying, I promise.
I believe in you.
Anyway, but so they're kind of at her house when Masato is leaving, and that's kind of after the flashback. So she's a bit like still kind of in her headspace of the flashback. You get a sense she's a bit serious. And then like there's this when they find out that she's promoted, this is like a weird thing. Also, I like all the shots. There's a lot of great faces and good comedy sound effects and stuff. But there's this weird thing at the end of that shot. I don't know if you guys caught it, but there's the umbrella that's all wet and it has a lot of water on the shoes. That's the last shot in that scene, and it feels very symbolic. Kevin's nodding. Is there anything you have to add, Kevin?
Well, okay. I noticed that, and I felt like I was just missing something for not understanding what metaphor that was supposed to be. But I was like, okay, this definitely means something that maybe on my second, because I haven't watched any of this before. This is my first time through any of this, so I don't know if that meant something that would make more sense down the road or something like that. But it was like, wow, this seems like this means something. I'm just not sure what.
Yeah, and it's hard to say, and I don't know, but the thing is, I try to rewatch these a couple times, and like the second time is usually when I zoom in on stuff like that and think about it because I'm not thinking about the other stuff, you know. And that was like something that hit me. I have like a theory. Did you have anything on that, Cody?
No, but that entire sequence, like there are some of the bigger stuff that I understand, but like there are moments like that where I wish I understood more about like just specific Japanese cultural touches and like cultural mannerisms, or like just, you know, what the sort of like cultural shorthand is, because I feel like I could appreciate those things a lot more. And I feel like that's sort of like this, I don't know, this unspoken thing that I'll never be able to grasp when watching shows that take place in specifically like a Japanese society, that like this means something. I don't know what it is, and like I know if I go online and Google it, I'm going to get 1,000 different answers that aren't really the actual thing, you know?
Yeah, like I think it was like episode. Oh, go ahead.
I mean, this is just like if you made me guess, it was some kind of representation of the fact that she had just gotten promoted. Those are sort of like dressier, more like going out shoes. The umbrellas like to symbolize going out. I thought they were trying to maybe poke at the fact that she's like, hey, I tried this promotion. I'm a major now. I'm not going to have time to wear these shoes ever again. I'm not going to have the umbrella out because I'm going to be at work all the time. You know, that kind of thing. I thought that's kind of what that meant, but then they didn't follow up with it. So then I thought I was wrong.
Yeah, so like in episode 4, there was this really quick moment we discussed where like Shinji looks at the dirty floor, and it's like one of these moments where it's like, oh, this is like a Japan cultural moment that means something to a Japanese audience, and it doesn't mean something to us. But like for me, when I was watching it, what happens is like the two kids, Ida and the other guy, Suzuhara, I think, they're like, you don't even understand Miss Masato. You didn't notice her like thing saying she got promoted, and like while they're saying like, oh man, it must be so hard to be around inconsiderate guys, people like this, that's when the shot cuts to that shot. And what that shot is a wet umbrella getting what looks like Masato's nice dress shoes. It's not clear, but it looks like them all wet. And so that means like Suzuhara probably put his wet umbrella down, got her shoes. And here's the thing, in that scene when Masato comes out, she's not wearing shoes. She's saying, "What's up, guys?" And she walks out and we don't see her put on shoes, and we see her shoes wet. And so it's possible she left the house without wearing shoes because her shoes are wet. And so, and again, it's no time is spent on this. We're just discussing it because it was there and we're thinking about it, but it's like, what the hell? And it's just, I love, that's why I love like cracking into this stuff. It's just awesome to like, what the fuck is going on? It's just art that people did years ago.
Every shot is a meal. Every shot is like a 10-course meal. And like, that's funny. I didn't even put the dots together until you said it, but like, I do remember, like, I mean, I obviously am not an expert on Japanese culture, but like
me neither.
When I was in Tokyo earlier, I guess last year, like, you know, it was I mean, I guess it's any country, but like when you have your wet umbrella, you have like a place that you put it in specifically when you enter into someone's home or like a hotel room. And like that the fact that Masato doesn't have one of those, but also that someone didn't put that in, that I think there's some subtext to that I am not qualified to answer or even a tip to crack open, but that did jump out in my mind.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's fun to think about, but I definitely don't want to claim any experience. It's just fun to think about. But so let's see. But you know, Masato doesn't really like the promotion. I think like we get like the next shot is the testing shot, and basically the test leads into that driving shot with Masato and Shinji. But in the test, you know, Shinji is good at testing, and it pisses Asuka off, and she's like, "Oh, it must be nice getting praised." And then so in the car, Masato and like Shinji are talking about that, you know, and Masato says she's angry about how you're always so worried about what other people think or something like that. And I thought that was weird because like I think that's what Masato thinks, but I don't think Asuka was thinking that. I think Asuka was jealous that she didn't get praised, you know, but Masato's saying like, oh, she's mad at you because you're not believing your true feelings, which is like stuff that's in this book. Masato's like, you're not doing things for your own reasons. You're doing it to please other people. But Masato says that's why Asuka's mad. But I don't know that that is why Asuka's mad, because Asuka doesn't say that's why she's mad. So it's like, is that Masato giving Shinji like life advice? Oh, I like what you're going to say is like, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No. I'm with you. Like it was one of those moments where like I don't know if this is like some 4D chess move where like Masato is trying to like light some type of fire in Shinji, but also like soothe his ego, but also like make him unpack a little bit like why he navigates the world the way that he navigates the world, the way that navigates it. Also, she's sort of been imbued with, I mean, this isn't stated, but I'm assuming, she has more authority. Maybe she knows something more than she knew before she got that promotion, and she's trying to like subtly prepare Shinji for like the trials that have come ahead of him. I have no idea, but I mean, I again haven't seen the show in a very long time, but like I think also like it maybe it could have been like a little bit of commentary on even like Asuka, that like she is like completely driven by like wanting to be the best and like stick out to others and like get this praise, like from her. It's I think it was more from like her mother or something like that, but like she's a she has a giant red Ava, and she wants to stand out and she wants to be boastful, and like she has to prove herself that she's the best in everything, where like Shinji, like he wants that but in a sort of different sadder way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and like Asuka's trying really hard to get validation and it isn't getting it. And Shinji naturally is and isn't taking it well. Like he's not running around celebrating like Asuka probably would like him to or something. And so maybe that's why she's getting angry a little. But I remember what I wanted to say ages ago was that like in the episode where Shinji runs away and gets brought back or whatever, like Masato kind of talks about how like she's using Shinji, and like I think like she's being really hard on herself, but she basically says like, oh, I'm doing the same thing as her dad. And so I think there's an extent to where she knows it's her job to handle Shinji as a parent because his dad's bad at it. But also I think because of this episode, it reveals like she also out of the goodness of her heart wants to do it the right way, like do it the way her dad didn't do. So I think like she is manipulating him intentionally, but is doing so in a way that she feels is the right way to parent that no one else is willing to do. And like she has to do it fakely because she's not a real parent, but like that gives her this unique perspective. That's kind of what I think.
No, I agree with that a 1,000%. Like I think also like that's sort of the end version of that's paid off in like I guess what is the first movie or whatever it was, but like where she like kisses Shinji to like save his life and like be like get out here and do the thing, but also she knows that that's what's going to motivate him, even though it's for her. Spoilers, like she's dying, she's going to die, and at the end of that scene, and like I think the way sort of watching how she manipulates Shinji as opposed to how Gendo manipulate Shinji, like it sounds weird saying this, but like I do see like the quote unquote love in the way that Masato handles Shinji. Like she knows how she needs to handle him. Like she knows that she has to have very good bedside manners. Like she has to come with a very delicate touch. Whereas Gendo, like I think he's one of those guys that doesn't see the forest for the trees, or maybe doesn't even care that he's looking at a forest. Like he's very much like, we need to get everyone to like this liquid goo to save the world, to be all blah, 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 blah. With Masato, I think, now that I'm thinking about it, like it is interesting seeing like she has a much more human approach, I think, than Gendo does with anything. And I think that's sort of the big divide between their parenting styles, if you can call it that, is that like Masato is a human, like, and Gendo doesn't want to be like, he wants everyone to be the same thing, he doesn't want to be human anymore. But like there's something very like I guess earnest, and it doesn't seem as evil or mean in spirit in the way that Masato handles Shinji, as opposed to like how Gendo handles Shinji.
And another thing is like Gendo's like, I'll hire Masato to handle Shinji because I don't know how to do it. But also Masato is like, you fucking idiot. Do you not understand? If I'm not doing this, your plan doesn't even work. Like you would have died in episode 1, like you need me. And I don't think she necessarily like, I don't know if that's an argument we ever see, but it's like, she actually is right. Like it's like you can make excuses about why Gendo's doing is so important and like has to do it his way. But at the same time, like his way didn't work without Masato, and maybe that was part of his plan, but whatever. But anyway, I really like it. I think this rewatch, Masato is like the coolest fucking character in like any property I've seen. Like she's such a badass nonstop. Like it's her series to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see like when you get to the end of this, like what your favorite episode is on this rewatch and like what really resonates with you. Because for me, I thought it was gonna be the action and stuff, but like I'm trying to think of like my favorite character moments in this series, and like it's when Shinji is like just like harvesting watermelon with the double agent guy, and like these aren't action set pieces. It's just like very real human moments set against the end of the world, and like it's so fun. Like it's so fun being like, oh, this is what sticks with me, not the giant robots, which are cool, but like seeing Masato like ask Shinji like, what do you fight for, or why do you do this, and being Shinji being like, the approval of others, and I don't know, that's really it's really really powerful writing.
And it's part of what makes the series unique too, are those kind of more comedy slice of life elements that aren't always like shoveled in that same way. Like the way like anime kind of blends different genres is very interesting, but this doesn't feel like that subtle. It feels like just kind of two styles of shows smashed together in a very cool way. So okay, so then they're doing a party to promote or to congratulate Masato, but she's not stoked about it. There's this point where Kaji shows up with Ritsuko, and both Masato and Asuka get jealous at the same time. And like that's kind of tracking, like in the past scene, like we've seen Kaji kind of flirting with Ritsuko, and Ritsuko is like, I feel like you're just doing this to like manipulate Masato, who can see us through that window right now. And like that's still the vibe when he shows at the party, where Ritsuko's like, I feel like I'm kind of being used here, but I'm just having a good time. And you know, and Masato's like, what the fuck? And Asuka's like, what the fuck? You know, and it's just, and again, it's so quick, it's understated, but it's hitting this like through line that's been, you know, through since Asuka appeared, and Kaji too, you know. And I don't know if there's anything else in this scene that's really interesting to me.
Well, I think this is something that gets paid off later in episodes, but like seeing how that sort of triumvirate gets paid off in later episodes is also like the testament of like how patient this show is, but also like truly how it takes one quick scene to like really mine out what a character's motivation is and like how they relate to the world. Also, you start going back and be like, oh, that's why this character acts this way.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I think this is where I really identified with Shinji a lot too, because like he says something how he is more uncomfortable the more people are at the party and stuff, and that's exactly how I am too. Like I am great with like 3 to 5 people at most, and then when all of a sudden it's this humongous crowd of people, I just sort of like shut up and stop talking. And the fact that she recognizes this and kind of talks to him about it, and you know, that kind of thing, that was where I was like, okay, I get him here, especially at that age.
Yeah,
that I totally identified with that too. I was actually going to ask you about that, Kevin, because I feel like, that's both of our style. To me, it's like, it's and also it's like tracking Shinji growing, like personal growth. Like he's getting better at socializing, but like a bigger party is harder than a couple people, you know? And so he is pretty comfortable with a couple kids around, but like this many, it's overstimulating. And it's like, not at that level yet, but it's like, it's interesting. I think we see him kind of socially level up as the series progresses.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you know, even just like him, making more friends, like having any friends at school outside of like Rei and Asuka goes a long way, but also seeing how he begins to interact with adults going on through the show, like even sort of how he confronts his father or isn't afraid to sort of like stick up to his father later on. Like he does have a lot of growth, but also that, again, back to like the tightness of this writing, like all based off these very small interactions burst out through like 26 episodes or 24 episodes.
Yeah, it all really sits and like breathes. It's like the negative space that the show uses, I think, is really effective. I think like you talked about patient, like since the beginning, me and Kevin have been talking about how anime, especially this show, feels very confident. And I think that's the same kind of thing. It's like, shouldn't we reveal something? And it's like, no, just wait. And it's like, we should be, and it's like, no, just wait. And it's like, you were right, you know?
Yeah. Like this show is not afraid to have episodes where quote unquote nothing happens. Like an episode where Shinji will lay in bed and listen to his tape for 3 or 4 unbroken minutes, or like you'll just see him ride the train to the end of the line and then he'll ride it right back to the city. Like it's a show that's not afraid to do that. And I don't know if I would have the confidence to do that, but I'm glad that someone did have the confidence to do that.
Yeah. Also, I guess now that you mention it, yeah, the pacing was slower back then. Like if you go back and watch the X-Files episode now, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I mean, it's good, but it's just hard. It's hard, you know. But also in this scene, like Shinji, or maybe in the next scene, like Shinji points out, other people have recognized your value. And like that's
Mm.
kind of what Shinji does
Mhm.
later in the episode, where he's like, "Oh, getting praised is good. Like I didn't understand that before. People like getting praised, and they do stuff so they'll get praised. This is awesome." And Masato's like, "Oh, god damn it, kid! This is like the exact wrong lesson I want you to learn right now."
But like, yeah, at least you get some movement when it comes to like understanding like how a society works and how interpersonal relationships work, even if you're taking that's not necessarily the right answer from this.
That's the thing is they're all kind of like they're all like all the kids are like such blank slates in their own different kind of ways. And so okay, so now we go to Gendo. He's in Antarctica. They're at the second impact was down here. They have these like a fleet of ships, and on the main on the main shot, the first shot of the main ship, and you never see it again. The ship has this giant long thing tied down with like tarp, and it never comes back. And at first, I thought it was like it kind of looked like it might have been one of those slings that's used to like launch planes off a jet carrier or something like that. But then it was like, no, it just looks like a big pipe, and I never noticed that. Obviously, that like comes back at the end of the series, but like I never noticed like, oh, they actually clock it here, and it's again like you just one shot in one fucking episode, and it's like they thought of it then. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it's again, it comes to like the patience and also the confidence of like we're gonna have a one shot of this never ending tilt up along this giant pipe spear thing, and then that's not going to pay off for maybe 4 or 5 episodes. Be like, oh wait, that's what that thing is. Where did they get that? Oh, they got it from this shot in episode 12.
Yeah, but so in that shot also Gendo says like, "Oh, this area is untainted by human sin," which is really unsettling. Kevin, did you have any like thoughts on that? Like Kevin's like the least into like he's going into all this blind. So
yeah, no, I mean, to me it just seemed really creepy. Like the water was a weird color. You know, they referred to this like it said something like, "Oh, this is the real Dead Sea" or something like that. You know, like obviously a lot had gone on there that hadn't been fully explained at this point. So I had that feeling of this is going to be significant later, but I have no idea how yet, is sort of my reading on it.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. Like anime does that where people are like, "Oh, we've messed with the domain of God, like untouched by human sin." It's like, man, I don't like when people talk like this.
Anytime you start mentioning a religious figure in a literal sea of blood, I'm like, I don't know if we're on the right side of history on this one.
Yeah.
Also, this show. This is going to seem like an oxymoron, but it has some of the best world building, but also some of like the like shakiest in that like you are just assumed to know what's going on. Like it's one of those things where like we sort of talked about the confidence and the pacing of the show where like they'll give you maybe 2 lines of explanation for like what a thing is, and like you're supposed to piece together like how things happen, what they mean in context of things, and like this is one of those things where like Kevin, I know that you're watching this for the first time, so like being like, yeah, where is this place? Why is the sea that weird color? Like, what is this giant pipe thing on this carrier? Like, how does it play into the actual show? Like this, I think this show really honestly, like no joke, thrives in the area of like the fan wiki and the fandom.com because they will exhaustively explain every single thing that happens in this series, which I think for a series that can be as ambiguous as this one does become, it's definitely a very big lifesaver.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like Elden Ring coded a little bit, where it's like Elden Ring. It's like just like to give a little spoilers. In Elden Ring, there's a character named Marika who turns out to be Radigan, and like that's a big reveal. But here's the thing. Marika is Radigan. Great. We learned that. It's in the game. It's not in a cutscene, but it's in parts of the game. People are like, holy shit, Marika is... But what the fuck does that mean? Does that mean if like Marika pulls up her shirt, there's like a guy's head down there? Like what that actually means for Marika to be Radigan, that's never made clear. And so people are arguing on the wikis about what that means and how that manifests. And there isn't an answer, or there is, but it's not available, you know? So like, you can be like, oh, this is what it means. Is I think when she's writing with her right hand, that's Marika, you know, it's like, you're just making shit up. Like that's not in the book, you know? And I think Eva's like that, where there's a lot of text and it explains a lot, but it does, once it explains it, that doesn't explain anything.
You just have more information. And like, also that paired with like the mapping of like Judeo-Christian like iconography that's also like been tweaked to like fit what the show is. You're like, all right, the seven eyes of Seraphim or whatever. You're like, but that's not what it means in this universe. Like it does sort of become like this weird amorphous like rat king of like mythology with like mixed in with like their own narrative thing that they got going on.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. So that was the Dead Sea and stuff. Okay, so then the new angel reveals they kind of lay this all out really quick with a lot of static shots and not motion, and they don't say it very explicitly, and it's not super clear what's happening. But basically, the angel shows up, it's in space, it can shoot off blobs of itself that act as giant bombs, and it's lining up its targeting to try and land on the HQ. And once it has its targeting lined up, it will drop its entire mass, itself, on Nerve HQ, where it'll use its AT field. Kevin, that stands for Absolute Terror Field, where it'll use its AT field to disintegrate, because they're basically indestructible AT fields. Their force fields, like some high weapon energy weapons can kill them, like the guns, but only when you can just like black out the entire nation, like, so it takes more energy that is feasible to punch through the AT field, unless they're using a prog knife or the AT field of the Ava itself. And otherwise it's indestructible. So the Ava is now using that to I think crush radio communications and prevent them from talking to each other, and B, to force field bomb fucking like the HQ without having to get in a fight. Like they're just gonna bomb it from above, because like, again, like the angels have been testing like, they're coming from here, let's go into there, let's drop acid into there, we got blowed up by getting too close, let's bomb it from way up here, and so it's an interesting like escalation.
It's also rewatching it, I'm like, the angels obviously have some sort, they obviously have intelligence and like sentience and stuff. I was thinking about like just the tragedy of like being created to like essentially be a suicide bomb. Like this angel was created from wherever it was created and came from, and was sent to this planet just to blow itself up. And I begin sort of like want to question like this sort of philosophical question, or the philosophical nature of like the angels, like how they exist, like how do they view themselves, like how do they view their role within the hierarchy of the quote unquote angels, which they don't really get into in the series, but like it was the first time, and I've seen this show plenty of times where I've actually questioned, oh wait, I wonder if that's sad, right? That this thing was just created to destroy itself and destroy others.
Yeah, it's kind of like League of Legends, where it's like, these minions just come out and their job is to go to the end until they either kill the thing at the end or die. And it's like, that sucks. Like, why does that in existence? Yeah, but
the only complaint I had about this episode, and this is minor, but like in all of the past episodes, the angels have been these really cool looking, terrifying, like vicious looking monsters. And this one kind of looked like a Pokemon, like it did not look scary at all. Like the idea behind it was terrifying, what it was going to do. Like this seemed like it was going to be the most destructive one we've seen so far and all this and all that. But like the look just did not match the story, I don't think.
Yeah, and it looks weirder than the last one, so it's like they're getting kind of more abstract artsy a little bit too.
Yeah, I do enjoy as the series goes along, they do sort of lean into like that can't comprehend like the burning wheel with like a thousand eyes, and like they really lean into the idea of like, this is Old Testament angel, you don't know what the hell you're looking at. And like I think this one is sort of that sort of threshold before you get into like the otherworldly, like I can't even comprehend what this thing is, like what am I looking at. Particularly I think in like episode 16, I think is when you first see your first like weird guy, your first real weird angel. Right. You're like, all right, this is not the show that I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I think like it gets into like DMT machine elves kind of like weird hallucination shit. But yeah, so at this point, like Gendo's out of town or whatever. So now Misato's in charge, and she basically starts taking action. She evacuates the city, and it goes out off without a hitch. Yeah. Like there's cars in in traffic, and then cut to the evacuation was a success. It's like, holy shit.
She's so good at her job.
No, like I was just like, I wonder if that's supposed to be like a joke or something, because to me, it's like that's the most impossible thing that happens in this whole episode is just they evacuate really well. They're like, okay, everyone's gone. The Magi recommend the evacuation. And then she also wants to back up the Magi computers, which is like, I don't know. Again, it's a quick thing, but it's like she really is good at being in charge, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then her last, challenge is she has to convince 3 children to kill themselves. So, we're in the kind of situation room. And again, I love there's these shots where they're over black, where like, Asuka's face comes out of the black and then she fades to black and Masato's face comes out. And it's just really dramatic. I love any shot in those rooms,
Yeah. I think also highlighting that like the difference an approach to like how they govern and how they're sort of underlings see them is that like at the end, Masato like gives like I always call them like the 2 desk guys, the 2 guys in the chairs that are always like typing me like the fuel's running at 50% energy or whatever, they like, she's like, you guys can like just leave. And they're like, no, we're going to go down with the ship. And like, I don't know if they would necessarily offer that to Gendo. I don't think they have that respect for him and
trust.
Yeah. And trust. Yeah. Like, and I think Masato is a much better people person than Gendo is, and I think she knows how to like flex that that sort of charisma that I think Gendo desperately lacks.
Yeah, leadership skills for sure. Like management skills. Management is tough. Like you can be a genius, but that doesn't mean you can handle someone like Masato can.
Yeah.
But so yeah, they're gonna catch the thing. They decide not to write wills. Masato is like, oh, I'll get you kids steak dinner, and they're like, oh yay, and then she leaves, and then Asuka's like, what the fuck, steak dinner? And then Asuka's like, all these Second Impact kids, they're all like, they have this image of this poor person image, which is like, that's so deep. And also it's like, I wonder if that's post-war shit, like post WW2, because it's like, damn, like the idea that these kids are like, these fucking old people, it's like the world ended, but it's like, they're kids,
Yeah, that's yeah, I never clocked that until I rewatched it this time. I was like, oh yeah, this is like a commentary on like, I'm assuming like post World War II, like scarcity mindset. And also when she was like, I'm a kid, what the fuck do I want to eat steak? Like, I don't want to eat steak. I'm a child.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I love that moment so much because also, again, like this book of it all is like Misato, what's driving her is revenge on angels. Like that's a healing fantasy that the book would imply. She's not acting out of her own volition. She's trying to like defeat this fantasy to destroy her inner demons. That's why she's facing her dad. And she says that, but like, it's not said here, but like what she's doing is she's selling this fantasy to the kids and they're like, yeah, we love it. Yay. And then they're like, what the fuck was that? Like, does she not realize like that's a fantasy? What is she trying to do? And they're like, they're living in the reality and they're like, we're used to like adults, like pinning their fantasies on us and stuff. And then like at the end, when they cut through, they're like, you know what? It's not about the steak. It's about having a nice little ramen as a family together, not serving this fantasy of Masato the Conqueror destroying the angels and bringing her dad back. It's like, no, let's just be here together and we can skip the pork so Ray can be here. I don't know. Like, I just really love that. Like, again, like I've been going through this book and on that level, like she's working out trauma and the kids are seeing that while working out their trauma without the tools to do that. And all they can see is adults being crazy. And they're like, what the fuck, steak? And it's just, it's all unspoken. And the guy, Ano, didn't know that shit either. He's just screaming onto the page kind of.
Yeah. And one of my favorite sort of buttons of that scene is that they do, and like Ray mentions like offhand, like she doesn't eat meat or whatever. And like, I love that, like one, they go to like this stripped down like cart on the side of the road, but also they go there specifically so that Ray could join them, which given everything that we're shown about specifically Asuka, like I wouldn't expect her to make that conscious decision to like be inviting to anyone, let alone to the person that she seemingly begrudges the most.
Her rival maybe.
Yeah, her rival. And like, again, like we haven't talked about this, but like, this show, there's such a heavy theme of like found family in this show. And also even the sort of irony of having your found family and still not liking them, which I think is another like sort of funny, like sort of satirical take on that. But like, I do that, like that we do see like how powerful their bond is, even if they don't necessarily like one another, or at least they treat each other with like what we would probably see as like goodness or like being kind. Like they'll invite them out, but like Asuka's still gonna like roast Rei, or like she's gonna call idiot or Shinji idiot Shinji.
Yeah, and also Asuka invited Rei to that party and she didn't show up. And you're maybe like, is Asuka lying? Like, is she didn't want Rei here? But by the end, it's like, oh, I bet she was being serious. And again, like I was saying with Shinji, I think like we don't spend a lot of time on it, but and especially Asuka, she gets so little screen time since she's introduced, but she's made huge strides to like open up and be vulnerable in a way she didn't in the first episode she was there. And like it's not very obvious because it's so like steeped in this like tsundere girl trope, but at the same time I think it's like, no, she like went from, you know, again, when we learn about her past, to like being unable to connect to people, with being pretty trusting of Shinji like in like 1 or 2 episodes. And I think this is like now she's extending that to Rei, you know.
And we also see like her connection to Shinji deepen, and also she starts to wrestle with like how she views their relationship and friendship or whatever else may come. And like again, like it's very real. It seems very real for like a 14-year-old girl, 13-year-old girl, to like anyone to go through like these intense, confusing emotions, also set against the backdrop of the end of the world.
Yeah, it's I think, I don't know. I just like I the characters are just so well drawn in ways that I don't know. They just they're all good. And I thought I would hate, or not hate, but I thought I would like Asuka the least, just because I did the first time, just because I feel like she came off as very mean. But like she's so identifiable. Like, I don't know, she's so relatable. And also she's just a badass. I don't know. I think I was just more mad before.
She was my favorite watching, because like, oh, she's got red's like one of my favorite colors. She's got like a giant red robot, and she's like kicking ass constantly, even though she's obviously trying to use it to fill some type of hole in her. Like as a 14-year-old kid, like, oh, this is the coolest character ever.
Yeah, no, that's the thing, is like I kind of missed how like much of a bad, it's like Shinji, where it's not super like, oh, like action, super high budget action combat, but it's like, no, they're very good at killing things with robots. But that's what happens here, right? Like before the actual final sequence, we flash back to Masato explaining Shinji's like why she's actually at Nerve. She kind of laughed off the question at the party earlier or whatever, but now she's like, here's the deal. It's like, my dad lived in his dreams. He didn't pay attention to his family. He couldn't stomach reality. He gave his life to save her. She joined Nerve to destroy the angels, to deal with her feelings of her dad. That's like her way of overcoming, you know, and she just kind of lays that all out. And I think subtextually, it's like, again, with the Gendo thing, it's like, well, yeah, if the world's like this fucked, maybe this is what you have to do. But it's like she's not at that place. But then she's kind of reflecting on the fact that her dad saved her life, and so she's like, my understanding of my dad is clearly not 100%. Like, I'm missing stuff. So I don't know. It's also fast, but again, it's just so deep. What a good series.
But also, like, you know, just finishing up that point. Also, like, you see how her and Shinji relate. Like, you know, her dad was very much doing what Gendo was doing, on a much, I guess, smaller scale. And I'm assuming her dad was probably had a little bit softer touch than Gendo. But like, I think also like that moment, you also realize like why she locks into Shinji so well. Like she sees him as a version of herself. And like, I think she's sort of caught in this unique place where like she wants to do her job, but also protect Shinji as much as she can in this new environment and from like Gendo. And just, again, it goes to add to like just the depth of all these characters.
And I think she kind of sees Ritsuko that way a little bit too, as like cold science and not understanding that Shinji's a kid. Like, I think that's not even something we talked about. But so like there is a little bit of tension in the series between Ritsuko and Masato, and it comes out in that bathroom scene where Ritsuko is like, clearly she doesn't trust Masato. And there's some science to that, but also it feels like personal baggage. Like they just have some kind of history. And like Ritsuko's like, you don't fucking get it because you're just stuck in the past. And Masato's like, yes, that's true. But also here's the thing. I'm in charge. And I know that right now you're being like a dick. Like this is your own baggage also. Like, I know you're right, but you're doing something right now. And like, I think like that is something that is, again, like with the Kaji subtext in the past, is like, Ritsuko is like on the scientific side, like more on Nerve side than Masato. Masato's more on humanity's side, like Shinji, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely a battle between, I think, humanity and, you know, trying to repress whatever wrongs have happened to you. Like, the characters that end up being human in this show, I think, stick out for that very reason. Like they're literally caught in this cold, mechanical, industrialized world, and like it really makes it shine when characters like Masato or Shinji, or even any of these, even particularly Rei, when they start becoming human, embracing their humanity.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think like there was an episode that really made me cry. It was like maybe episode 6 or 7, but it was like that. It was like Rei is like really opening up, and it's like, God damn, like it's.
Yeah.
But another part is like when Masato is revealing her feelings, it kind of reminds me of One Piece, where like a lot of anime have this stuff where I don't think I noticed it so strongly, but basically it's like it's this trope of like warriors exchange their feelings with their fists, you know, where it's here's the thing, we can't explain, we can't debate, but I have pinned my entire world to this like belief system, and I will destroy you to prove it's correct. And if you destroy me, you will have proven that your belief system's correct. And like they're constantly coming into conflict, and that's always like the symbols behind a lot of anime. That's like clearly what's in her thing. Like we're talking about like adults and children and parenting good versus ambition and stuff. And like in One Piece, that's like it's very like literal. It's like I'm on a pirate ship because I believe in this one thing, and I will kill another pilot, and he'll be like, oh wow, I guess he was right, you know. And that's like, and they talk about that, and then after like Luffy wins, they're like, man, I thought you were stupid, but you beat me, so you must be right philosophically. I guess I'll adopt your philosophy. And it's like
the sword logic of it all, you know.
Yeah, I really like that, honestly. It's just because I like how anime is so on the nose, and like it's not like there aren't ideas like that in Western stuff, but they just aren't saying we're fighting now because you believe this and I believe that, and I kind of like that. You know, I wish there was more of that.
I think that's what I think. I mean, those shows are, you know, those particular types, genre of anime are made for like young boys, you know, and I think it sort of ties into like what George Lucas said about Star Wars. He's like, these movies are for children because the idea is like we're trying to distill very complex morality ideas down to the simplest form, which is like good, bad, don't do this, whatever. So like the idea of distilling like a very complex moral philosophy to like, I'm going to use my special karate to beat up you and prove that I'm right because your special karate is evil. Like it is silly, but also like it's effective. Like, you know, like how many millions of kids are like, oh, I like Goku because he fights for what he believes in and he's a good person. And like, that's what he does. But also he does all that just because he's really good at Kung Fu.
Right. Yeah. There's sometimes I wish Western television like took more cues from Japanese stuff. It just feels like it's so much more fun when you can just be like, who cares, you know? But so, okay, then all the action cuts down. Like the play-by-play is Shinji gets there first. He kind of unlocks this almost super speed mode, it seems. Like I don't think he's been animated with speed like that before this moment. And it's interesting. They don't dwell on that, but Then Rei and Asuka gets there. So he catches the thing. Rei cuts it open with her prog knife. And I think this is the first time we've really seen detail on Rei's prog knife, but I've been clocking these. Shinji's looks like a K-bar, like a combat knife. Asuka's looks like a box cutter, like the trope of the insane, like Japanese kind of violent girl. And Rei's looks more like a tanto, like a Japanese, like honorable weapon or something, or just like a standard Japanese knife, but it doesn't look like a box cutter. So that's interesting. But Rei cuts it open, and then that frees up Asuka to stab it in the core and actually finish it off. Then this is like where most of all the money is in the very beginning, that flashback scene, and then this sequence here. That's where all the money in the whole series is or in the whole episode, and it looks great.
Yeah. Also, I again, I said this before, but like I did not realize how quick this actual sequence was. Like it truly is just like Shinji runs. He jumps, he catches, they slice it open and they kill it. And within like 45 seconds in real time, it seems like. And like as a kid, you're like, oh, wow, this episode's going to be so crazy. But like watching it now, I'm like, oh, yeah, they're so capable at their job. Like they took out this giant alien in like under a minute flat with like no casualties.
And they kind of need to because of the way their power plugs work, right?
Yeah.
Like they don't have big batteries too. But also, yeah, I just love it. Like this rewatch, we've been like, I've been more like in like understanding animation going into it a little bit and just thinking about it. It's like, yeah, every episode there's basically about 3 good minutes of animation. And then everything else is about like is really like what I'd call money saving shots, which is as much static as possible and enough kind of background sliding, not real animation, you know?
Yeah, throw some cicadas in the background and you're set.
Yeah, I mean, it looks great, and it's just a static shot of a sink. It's great, and again, it's like we could learn from this. Anyway, we're almost out of time. Let's see. So the Shinji gets positive feedback from his dad, and he kind of accepts it a little bit. He's like, "Oh, good," I think he says hi, which is like "yes, sir," like affirmative kind of. It's like a salute kind of.
Yeah.
The traffic comes back in, and they're all honking, and then they get ramen. So like again, like the kids, like they kind of saw her Misato's healing fantasy and they just went with it. And then once the problem was over, they're like, now can we cut the bullshit? And like, what the fuck? We just want ramen. Like, let's just be here. And I just really like that. And I think like it's unspoken again, but Misato kind of feels that in the moment without it really being said so much.
Yeah.
And it really just hit me really hard. I started crying a little bit, and Shinji was like, I understand why getting praise feels good. And I like my takeaway there was it wasn't just the praise and the validation. It was also just like, it's nice to be proud of my work. Like, I think he actually knew what he was supposed to do. He felt confident for once. He was like, okay, it's go time. He did it. He did exactly what he wanted. He saved people he cared about with people he cared about working together. And he's like, hey, this is what life's all about. This is great. I get it now,
Yeah. Yeah. And literally just hearing good job or good work, whatever he said, you're like, oh yeah, that's all that he needed on top of like executing the plan to a T. Like Shinji is beyond capable at his job, and like just getting the validation for that. Like it really was like, man, this kid, I'm so glad this kid got a win.
And again, like if Gendo didn't have Masato like seeing over him, like none of this would have ever happened, But yeah, that's the episode. Do you have any like last thoughts before we kind of get out? I guess we should give Kevin a chance. Well, let's give Kevin a chance first. Kevin, you have any final thoughts?
No, I mean, this is actually one of, like, even though not a great deal happened, this is, I think, one of the better episodes we've seen so far, because it just was, it developed all the characters equally. It wasn't so focused on just one, which we've needed in the past, I think. But this kind of brought everyone together in a way that we hadn't seen before. And that I liked that. And, everybody seemed relatable, empathizable. Other than the big monster looking like a Pokemon, I really had no complaints about this one.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. What about you? You have any final thoughts or larger thoughts as we close?
Again, like this show lives and breathes with the characters of it. And I think on a rewatch now, like I really appreciate how much time and effort goes into developing these characters, having these small moments and like being patient with it, and then to the point where like the fighting is just like an afterthought. Like you don't really care about the fights, you care about these people. And like this series is so dense, and like this episode I think is the perfect example of how dense this show can be.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't put it any better than that. Well, that's the show, I think. Do you have anything to plug? Thanks so much for doing the show. This is so much fun. I love talking.
Yeah, this was great. Have you back anytime. I love being on here.
Awesome.
Yeah, check out. I got a comic book coming out next month, or next week, called Goobers. Check it out. It's a horror comedy. My very first creator own. That's fun. And watch Futurama. New season's out right now.
That's so cool. Yeah, check that out. Goobers, right?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. I'm going to check that out for sure. Patreon.com/thesixler. If you want to support me, as always, you guys are my link. I need you. Otherwise, I don't know what I'm doing until I decide to quit being famous or whatever the fuck this is. Thank you so much. Kevin, do you have anything to plug before we get out of here?
Nope. Just watch us on Sundays at shroudhomevideo.com if you want to watch us live before I edit out all of Spencer's rants.
All right. And as always, let's end the show with a lesson from Spempai. Hey guys, did you know the Japanese word for perfect dark is red and black? Goodbye.